Hello and welcome everybody. So today we're going to look at working on something more figurative. Looking at Gloucester Old Spot pigs, one of the rare breeds from Gloucestershire, from the Cotswolds. I'm going to just take you through how I made this and how you're going to make it. So just going to leave this fella to the side, and we'll talk about colour and things later. So what you'll have to begin with is your piece of clay. So what I would do is take your knife, cut it so that you've got one piece, then just kind of make it into something that you can easily cut in half so that you've got a vague idea as to it being kind of reasonably two halves. Okay, so you're going to use both of these and you're going to make two pinch pots and you're going to stick them together. I'm going to bring you through that now. So the first thing is, if you've got creases in your clay like that, you need to just smooth them over with your finger. So just smoothing them over like that. The reason for that is that once we start to open the clay up, those act kind of almost like when a bread rises, it'll just split open. So next thing I'm going to do is just to make it circular into a ball with my hands. And top tip, don't do that thing, you see people doing, because it just dries the clay out and it doesn't make it round. So you're much better just turning it in your hand, so that always when I talk about clay is that one hand is your mold or your support and the other hand is your tool. Okay, and that can alternate even if you're right-handed or left-handed. Sometimes you just end up using the other hand. So just wanted to make it round into a ball, no creases on there, and we're going to go straight into the pinch pot. So putting it into the kind of ball of your hand there, using your thumb. Any of you who've done my videos before know this old reliable pinch pot is really useful for so many things. I think on the list of videos you've got pots, as in pinch pots, salt pots, that type of thing. You've got sheep, you've got, oh, I'm sure there's loads of stuff. Anyway, so back to the job in hand. When you're making a pinch pot, you have your thumb in there and you imagine yourself going on a very slow spiral staircase all the way down. So you're pinching and turning. So one hand does the pinch, the other hand turns. Pinch and turn. I'm going to speed up the process, but really it's more important that you take your time. Now, just the other thing when we're saying this is that if you have your hand in that kind of position, you'll end up with, I'll turn it the other way around. If you end up with your thumb in that kind of position, your pot's going to go like that, or your pinch pot's going to go like that. If you try and keep the pinch straight up like that way, that is going to keep it much more enclosed. Yeah, so just going to pinch and turn. The other way to think of it is, if you've got a bendy thumb like mine, is that you're allowing it to follow the shape of your thumb. Now, there's loads of you, I can hear you all going, oh, my thumb doesn't do that. And lots of you have got much straighter thumbs. But anyway, there we go. So pinching and turning until you get to a form, something like that. Okay, now when we've done these before, they've also been a bit wibbly like that, yeah, and we don't want that. We want it to be flat because we've got two to make and we're going to stick them together. So I just tapped it down like that, and you'll see on there that's nice and flat. Okay, so that, put that one aside. You can see how thick it is. Wait till I just get it to the same thickness there. You can see how thick it is there. You're better off with these being on the thicker side than the thinner side, because we will be having a kind of capsule of air inside this that's going to help to keep the shape. But the other thing is we're going to be adding things to it, as in the legs and the head. So we want it to be reasonably sturdy. So try and not, you're better to concentrate on the form rather than making it bigger, if you know what I mean. Okay, so with your 2 pieces of clay, I'm going to show you, here's one I made earlier. 2 pieces of clay, there we go. So 2 pinch pots, exactly the same. Now, well, when I say exactly the same, you'll see that this one is ever so slightly bigger than the other one. But what matters is that the aperture of the rim is the same in both, or the diameter of the rim is the same in both. So just so that they will kind of sit together like that. Okay, the next thing, what you want to do is to scratch. Hang on, I'll just do a bit here and then I'll show you. Now, not cut, just scratch. What you're intending to do is to create the surface so that it's all scratchy like that. Okay, so you want to do the same on both, all the way around. So that it is all the way around. And then you've got your slip from the other pieces that you've done, hopefully. And this is just, you can't really see there, it's just the clay mixed with some water so that it is, you can see the consistency, it's kind of like white sauce, like a roux, something like that. So then what you want to do, well, hang on, I'm going to have to do this. I have one ready to show you, but just in terms of the joining, I think it's important that I show you. So that's all scratched there. Scratch this one. Just talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so both of them scratched and ready to put together. So just slapping the slip on. Lovely bit of alliteration. So that both of those have got a coating of slip on there. And then what we're going to do is just start at one edge like that, you can see, and gently put them together so that you're creating a seal. That's very important. So just pushing that together. And another way of pushing it together is just once you've kind of feel like you've got a good seal on there, is just to hold it in your hands like that and wiggle it just backwards and forwards. Turn it round so that you're keeping an eye on that seam. And just that wiggling backwards and forwards helps it to join. Now you'll see we have this little seam of clay here, of slip here. Now, depending on what we'd be doing, sometimes I would kind of just clean that out and add in a sausage of clay all the way around, but I'm not going to do that this time because I don't feel it's necessary. However, I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to go all the way around, just taking out the sloppy slip that's on the outside there. So I've just cleaned that off, because what that does is it makes it easier for me to join it. Now, you can either join it with your fingers, like that. And when I say join, it's really spreading the clay on top of, from one join to the other. You can do that with your fingers, or you can do it with the, I'm gonna have to stand up, or you can do it with the credit card. Let's get the seam there. There we go. That credit card has come in really handy for all kinds of things that we've been doing this term. So it's really joining that down. Although it's messy, that's not a problem. Okay, excuse me. So the next thing that we do, once that's all sealed, so I've gone all the way around once, and I'm going to turn it the other way around in my hand so that I'm joining, really making sure that that join is very well sealed. And also you'll see that as I'm joining it over, I'm getting a much smoother surface. And so don't think about just softening the clay. It's really spreading it from one area to another. It's an active movement of the clay. So I've just turned it over again in my hand, and I'm just keeping going on that until I feel I have a lovely smooth join where you can't really see where the join is. Okay, so I'm left with this peculiar shape, kind of like a really badly formed donut. Now, the join that I had, I'm just going to mark it with my finger as to where it was. The join that I had was there, okay? So it doesn't really matter how you, which way you shape it, but personally, the one that I find puts less stress on the clay is if you think about laying that in your hand so that you're going to be hitting across that join. And what you're going to aim to do is to make a kind of long egg kind of shape so that it's starting to resemble something more like, well, I'll just keep going. So I'm rotating. Remember, one hand is the supporter, and just make sure that those joins. Anytime you see any little bit of a movement in a join, like that, see that little bit there, what you want to do is just smooth it over with your finger before you see it getting any worse. It's not that it's going wrong, it's just that these things are to be expected along the way, and you fix them along the way so you don't end up with the problem later. Okay, so as you can see, I'm putting the weight of the slap of my hand onto the clay, and you'll see it's becoming much more lozenge shape. And this is going to help with the shape of the pig. So pigs generally have quite a long body. Okay, so let's take our little friend back here and see what we were looking at and what we're intending to get. Okay, so you can see we're getting to that point. Next thing we want is to take a bit of clay and just get it into that kind of a shape. Just a kind of, what would you say, a round ball with the pointy bit on the top, but it's all made out of just one piece. So from that, you want to scratch the top of here, because this is going to be your head, okay? And also to scratch the bottom of here, and to use your slip on both of those. So what I've done is I haven't put it right in the middle, I've put it slightly lower down, because their heads tend to kind of come down a little bit. So I've squidged that on, technical term. I'm going to just again use my finger just to take that excess away, and using my fingers going to join that on. Okay, once you have that joined on, you just smooth it in and join it on like that. Okay, and yes, that was, you didn't miss anything. I moved from that one to that one, but you can see what you do is you just join it in. I'm just trying to save time for you. And once that's on there, you can start to see a little bit of the shape of the nose coming. And what I'm going to do now is think about what exactly is going on here. So I'm going to just flatten that there, because they have a very kind of flat bit there, and I'm just using the clay to manipulate what's going on here. Right, so now on that bit, I'm just going to put it down here and just gonna give it a wiggle. Right, you see that? Now it's a little bit big, as in quite wide, so I'm just going to use my fingers just to pinch it into a kind of slightly smaller shape. But they do have, it does kind of, the front of their nose or their snout does actually turn round. So I'm just putting it on there and rolling it backwards and forwards, because you start to get something really nice. See, it's those kind of things make me excited. Oh, I know. I'm a cheap date, I tell you. Okay. So I'm now going to just take, if I had a pencil handy, I would do that, but I'm just going to poke two kind of fairly equidistant holes on there. Now, they don't have a snout in exactly two holes like that. What I urge you to do is to look at the pictures, Google Images, just look at pictures, and that will help you to get the shape that you want. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to show you a really fabulous little trick. So, little bit of clay, squidge it into a, I'm just going to roll it on here a little bit, just squidge it into a thin sausage. That will do. Okay, now you'll notice that these, when you look at the pictures, they have this lovely kind of thick lip, and it goes into a little bit of a smile. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw it on here. Like this. And just gonna give a little scratch. I'll show you now what I've done. I'm sorry, it's a little bit tricky to film this. So I've just given I drew on like the kind of mouth and put that on there. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of slip on there. A little bit of slip on there. And this is something that makes the mouth look very, very natural. So taking that little bit there, I'm just going to put that on there. Put that on there. Okay. So looks very crude. And you don't have to do this bit, because I didn't do this bit on the other one that I showed you. But you see, the thing is that every time you make something, you go, oh, do you know what would be better? And then you do the thing that you think would be better. And then that becomes the new thing that you do. So I'm just using my fingers just to join that in. And you'll see automatically that what it does is it starts to give a much more fleshy feel to that. And now I'm going to just pinch the kind of bottom bit there. Yeah, and I'm just going to use my knife. I'm going to have to stand up and show you this bit. Sorry. And what I'm going to do is just use my knife like that. Hang on, sorry, can't see. There, okay. Okay, so he's a bit of a funny old nose there, but I'm just going to push it down like that. Okay, so we're now at the stage where we have the snout on, and we're going to talk about what to do next. Now, at this point, I would be keen on just letting that sit. Probably half an hour, something like that. Let it stiffen up, because the next thing that you want to do is make the legs. Okay. Now you can see I've squished him and he's not quite right, but you know, you can come back to that. So what I did in making the legs was I squidged out a bit of clay like that. Okay, and then I cut them into equal parts. So I just put it down and then just cut it Yeah, so you get 4 of them all equal. Right, now the next thing that you want to do, I don't know where that came from. Oh, it's a bit of cloth. Okay, so I have made these earlier, but I'm just going to show you what I did. So the other thing that you can do is, you know, you can make the body, wrap it up and come back to it the next day or a few hours later. Or make the legs and just keep them wrapped up so that they don't go hard, because if they go hard you'll lose the will to live with this one. Okay, so got this kind of little bit here, and all that you want to do is to pinch the one end into more of a point. Okay, so it's a bit more of a kind of thick carrot. Okay, now the pig's trotters are an unusual shape, a cloven foot, and what I'd suggest when you do these is to actually look up Google images and put in Gloucester old spot pig cloven foot. And the same when you're going to do the tail, put in pig's tail, and the same when you want to do the ears, because it gives you more of a close-up of those. So here's my knife, nice and clean. So first thing that I will do is just a little nudge in like that, and I'm going to take it up closer so you can see. Okay, so I just pushed that in there, and I'm just kind of almost spreading the clay out just so I get that kind of a shape. Now the other thing with the cloven foot is that there's this kind of high toe at the back. So if I was to show you it like that, hang on, sorry, there, then I'm just going to put this bit like that. It's almost like a smile, and that just helps me to make the little bit at the back, and all I'm going to do is just to open that up. Okay, so it's a very peculiar shape, but that's what it looks like. And the thing is now that what I do is just to push it that way, and I'm going to just move that into there a little bit so it's not quite as big. And that is the beginning of the foot. Okay, this is the finished one. I'm trying to show you the feet. There you go. Turn them that way. There are the feet. Okay, so you know, you can't get yourself hung up on detail, but what you can do is just aim at it being as close to what you want. Okay, so these, I've let them dry a little bit so that they'll take the weight, because if this is the wet one, because if I put something on here, I'm putting the same weight on both of those, you'll see that that one squashes down more than that one. So I mean, you can see it's still bendy, but it's more like cheddar cheese rather than brie, which that one would be. Sorry, yeah, always talking cheese. Okay, so the next thing is how do we put these on? So I'm looking at these feet thinking which is going to be back and which is going to be front. And generally I'll look at them and go, okay, the more elegant it is, the front one will be the one. So these two are a little more elegant than the others. But now I can still squeeze them into shape. So what I'm going to do, just for ease of time, I'm going to use my serrated scraper, which is this one, which I use instead of a knife, but you just use your knife to scratch. But just so that we're moving forward, I'm going to put 4 scratchy things on here, technical word. So I've just scratched up those surfaces. Going to do the same, just making sure that I've got them going in the right place, so that I don't have the feet going on back to front, if you know what I mean. Because that would be easy to do. So 1, 2, and then the back ones, which are just a little bit more chunky. I'll show you this in a moment. 1 and 2. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. I've flattened them a little bit. And next thing, slip on everything. Slip on it all. On both surfaces. Okay, so that's that side. 1, 2. Now I'm putting these on and you'll see that they're looking really clunky, and that's absolutely fine because we're going to add in some more clay to that, and these are going to soften off. And the back ones, 3, 4. Okay, so at the moment they're looking really wide and peculiar. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to squish them in so that the legs are more upright. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, and before I move on to the next bit, I'm just going to show you how to do that lovely bottom crease, because it's just a joy. Yeah, I know there are peculiarities in my... Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm aiming at the very middle here, and I'm just going to push that in all the way like that. And I'm going to just... I've pushed it in, and now I'm just going to go at an angle. Hang on, I'll just show you the angle. So first of all, I pushed it in straight like that, and now I'm going at it at an angle and just pressing that on both sides so that you get that kind of nice kind of curvy bottom. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is take the slip and just go around those joins, just squidging in there, giving it a good old join. And then I'm just going to take some little bits of clay like this, just a sausage of clay, and just going to join around all of them like that. And you'll see that that is just going to make that become much more part of the pig. Now listen, you can take shortcuts with this and you can do it however way you want, but I just thought, seeing as we had extra time in terms of you guys being able to play this whenever you wanted to, I thought that you would just enjoy kind of having more time to play. But yeah, you know, whatever way you want to do it yourself is absolutely fine. So here we have our, oh, we'll do it that way, looks better, doesn't he? So starting like that, and you know, you need to spend time with just smoothing out the clay and making it go how you want. Okay, so let's just talk about the last two things. So this guy is, I'll just move his legs into a better position. There we go, there we go. There he is. He's much more, this guy is a little bit longer. So I obviously kind of spent a bit longer in kind of pushing out the clay when I was elongating it at the beginning. So the other thing is he's a little bit high up. So what I can do is just put his feet in the right position and then just wiggle him down a little bit. Okay, last thing before you all fall asleep. I'm going to take a piece of clay, make it into 2 halves. Going to pinch one of those into a point, so it's like that, yeah, and then I'm just going to flatten it and make it nice and wide. And I'm going to keep this bit a little bit thicker than the rest of it. These are his ears. So second one, I'm just going to pinch out that clay, keeping it, as I said, a little bit thicker just at that top bit, because that's going to help me to join it all on. Make sure they're both roughly the same size. Happy enough with that, that's grand. If you find, you see that bit there, there's a little hole. If you come across that, then what you need to do is make sure there's no air, just smooth it over so that it is nice and smooth. And now I'm going to join it on. And this is the thing that gives the pigs all of their character, really. So I'll just put that on there. So again, a little bit of slip. And I've done them. There we go. And another one there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is kind of have it slightly curved on there. So I'm putting them on, I'm letting it curve on my thumb a little bit, because when they're older, their ears are so big that they just kind of flop. And when they are when they're younger, you'll see photographs of them with much more kind of sticky up ears. So you'll see by adding this here, you can see that's the kind of ears that they'd have when they're younger. So you can have them up if you want. Now the issue that I have is if you choose to have them up, in terms of transporting to my kiln, you're asking for trouble. So personally, I think it's much better to let them flop over so that they're an older pig. So I've just been smoothing the clay out behind his ears, and then all I'm going to do is their ears, when they flop down and they hide their eyes, which is why I haven't actually done any eyes. So you'll see here, I'm just going to allow them to just flop down, and lo and behold, you have yourself a Gloucester Old Spot pig. Now tail, very simple, last little thing, bit of soft clay into a carrot type shape, little bit of a, where is he here, little bit of a scratch on there, scratch on here, bit of slip, and stick it in well. I know it looks odd, but do that. Use your knife or credit card, whatever you want, to join it in like that first of all, and the reason being that then we'll get it into a curly thing. So I'll leave him there, and now I'm just going to let it go to the side and curl it round. Yeah, but the important thing is that he's stuck on properly. Okay. Oh, thank you so much for bearing with me. Gosh, 33 odd minutes or whatever. So the only thing I'd say on this one is spend time making it your own. You can push and pull the clay to it being, you know, what you want. I could spend another 20 minutes playing around with him. So do whatever you feel is right for yours. And thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.